Welcome to a football show, Thursday edition, the beginning of SEC football. The 53-man roster for the Tennessee Titans has been established and has already been tweaked since it was announced on Tuesday. He is Zach Lyons. I am Braden Gall. You can get to us on the Twitters, of course, at Braden Gall, at FWordsPod. Zach, how are you, sir? We got breaking news literally minutes before the show started. Derrick Henry contract information. We've got a huge show.
What a whirlwind.
I know. So we've got a huge show planned for you guys. We're going to dive into all of the SEC in week number 1. You're going to hear from Kevin Byard. I had a chance to talk to him for a few minutes. So we've got a lot of stuff to get to. J-Rob making excuses. Josh Gordon, SEC upset alert. Like just a shit ton of stuff today on the show, Zach. And minutes before the show starts, there's an Ian Rappaport. I don't know what you call that. Like a it's a Woj bomb, for Adrian Wojnarowski. Like, I don't know what you call a Rappaport tweet, but basically the Titans are reworking Derrick Henry's deal. So we'll get to all of our wonderful, amazing sponsors and turn on all the notifications and listen to all the podcasts and all that great stuff. But what do people need to know? And we'll keep you up to date as information comes out. So welcome to the show already in progress. Derrick Henry's new contract. What's going on, man?
Well, it's right now, what we know is that he's getting a $2 million raise in 2022. He will now earn $14 million this season, which doesn't, I guess he's not including the signing bonus that he's already been paid. That's the base salary plus $2 million. Right now, they did not add any years to Derrick Henry's contract. I don't know if that includes void years. They did add void years, but not real contracts. In the end, right now, we may have to come back to this topic, but here we go. PFT has confirmed, Pro Football Talk has confirmed the deal for Derrick Henry. The Titans moved $2 million from the final year of his deal, 2023 to 2022. If he's still playing at a high level after this season, he'll likely get a new contract next year. Henry gets a $9 million signing bonus, of $4 million base salary, and $1 million in 46 roster bonuses in 2022. So what they've done is take down, it looks like, if they're giving him a $9 million signing bonus, they have taken a $4 million base salary. Oh my gosh, this is getting a little.
I love watching Zach do like live contract math on the air in real time. It's so wonderful. Here, I'll lay out a couple of things to think about while Zach, you do some contract math over there. So basically, Derrick Henry after 2023, they had a chance to get out of the contract. Derrick Henry's reaching about 1,500 carries, 7 or 8 years in the league. He's about the age where the body, quote unquote, normally starts to decline. This feels like
2 voidable years were included for cap purposes.
There you go. So
there it is. I told you there's going to have to be cap years.
There's going to have to be cap years. So basically, what this does, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, Zach, but you give Derrick a little bump this year, and you give both sides the flexibility to negotiate the new salary, whatever that may be, depending on how they project his development over the course of the next year. And then next year they've got him. And then after that, they can decide, hey, if you're still playing at the highest level, we'll give you a whole new deal and we can keep you around for 2 or 3 more years. Although you've kind of said all along that you think that could be unlikely.
Yeah, so he's due for a 15.5 cap hit next year. So this will essentially lower that number as well because of the addition of the void year. So when you're talking about 2 voidable years were included for cap purposes, that means that, he's going to have there's going to be some dead cap hit. But that's going to be okay because ultimately you're just looking for lower cap hits next year. So while he's the highest paid running back this year, technically he won't be the highest paid running back next year.
Okay. Stoney Keeley, shout out to the Sobros Network. He said, did they just take Brett Kern's money and give it to Derrick Henry?
No, they just took Derrick Henry's money and gave it to Derrick Henry in a different way.
Right.
People who are saying that, because I've seen that tweet a lot. I don't know if it's in jest or seriousness, but they have taken Derrick Henry's money and given it to Derrick Henry.
They've moved all of his money around. Stoney, of course, always in jest, never serious. That guy, of course, check out all of his work. So I guess, in your opinion, what does this news mean for the future of the Titans and Derrick Henry's relationship moving forward?
Well, I think this solves the quote unquote rumblings from Derrick Henry's camp about, remember, the hold in and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
I think what they're doing is guaranteeing him more money and a signing bonus up front. So the stuff that's been converted to a signing bonus, he's actually going to get paid in cash this year.
I like it when you do. I like the little finger motion.
cash,
Yeah,
the,
your little
Johnny
cash money.
Manziel, if you're watching the
That's
video.
right.
So
That's right.
he's going to get a buttload of money, basically, essentially today or tomorrow, whenever this goes through. And there you go. There's his upfront cash that he's getting paid. That's going to placate him for next year. They may even do an extension next year because now it's a little easier to do the extension because now they have pretty much paid him a lot up front and given him a flexibility to add on.
Okay. Enrique says, do they lose $2 million more in cap space this season? I think that's where people are making the Kern joke, right? Where it's
I don't think I'd have to see it all worked out because essentially they should say if he's getting paid $14 million this year, so that's $9 million sign-in bonus, $4 million base salary, and $1 million in 46-man roster bonuses in 2022. That is $14 million. He was scheduled, his cap hit was scheduled to be $15 million. So technically he should be a $1 million less cap hit.
Okay. This is all good news so far for Titans fans. And Derrick Henry gets a little extra cashish this year. So it's all good for everybody. Again, I still think a lot of this depends on what does his body look like after 300 more carries? That's where this is going. Is
if you're the running back who has the carries, has the injury issues, has the workload that he does, getting paid all this money into a signing bonus up front in 2022, that's a good deal for everybody involved.
Yes, and it gives everybody. Titans have flexibility. Derrick Henry gets paid. Use him up, Vrabel. That's what I'm hearing. You use him up. And yes, Enrique, it is impressive to watch Zach do real-time salary cap math. Vic Fangio. No, not Vic Fangio. Why am I drawing a blank
Vic
on
Marino?
Vic Marino should be bringing you on staff. That's what he should be doing.
Hey,
Zach Lyons, baby. Zach Lyons,
I am
everybody.
a great guy to have employed. I tell you, I will work. Nobody will work harder during contract negotiations to tell you what you should do more than I will, because I would love it. I would love to do negotiations in the sports world because I would love to look at like some player that is trying to do a hold in or hold out and be like, dude, you're a running back. What we need you for?
Also, and one of my favorite things about you is you do not suffer fools at all, and I appreciate that about you. So I can just see you being like, "What are you talking about? We're not giving you any extra cap space this year, you moron."
I'd have a big dry erase board with definitions written on it. I'd pass it all out to every player.
Can you do the Dan Campbell voice though when you talk? Like, "Oh, bro, like I don't think we can keep this guy, bro." Like it's just
I could probably do a voice like that. Maybe I just do a British accent or something. Work on bringing that back out.
Tim on Twitter says, and I think Tim's in our fantasy league. Tim on the comment says, I've taken differential calculus and I still don't get how salary cap hits work.
Hey, so I write an article every year and try to explain all definitions and everything for you. And if you want to, you could probably go back and go to BroadwaySportsMedia.com and pick that up. And it's free, so you don't have to. But I do encourage you to pay for some Broadway Sports Media.
Yes, here we go. So let's get to how we would normally start the show, which is special thanks to our awesome and amazing sponsors, the Kingston Group and Weiss Liquors. Again, Weiss Liquors right here. Got the T-shirt on right there. Weiss Liquors, Uber Eats, search Weiss Liquors. They'll ship it right to your house, man. And what do we say about Weiss Liquors, Zach? Are you listening to the ad this time?
I am listening to the ad this time. They drive so you can drink. I was about to say I drink so they can drive,
which is fine. That works too. Like I'd like to do all the drinking, and Weiss Liquors can do all the driving. Pop into the store, of course, locally owned for almost 100 years and operated here in Nashville. If you say 440 at the cashier's checkout, you get 10% off. That is tax-free booze, folks. So check them out. And buildkg.com for the Kingston Group. If you're working on some home renovations or any additions you want to do, or you're buying a house and you want to do some flipping and renovating it before you purchase the house, make sure you talk to the Kingston Group. They'll come out. They'll give you a nose-to-tail price point and aesthetic and design. They've got everybody in-house that you can trust. And we did have somebody who was upset that we were talking about general contractors in a bad way. I wasn't talking about good general contractors. We were talking about bad general contractors, the shady ones that will steal your money and not do the work for you.
Listen, there are small bad companies. There are big bad companies. There are independently owned bad companies.
Yeah.
Look, it's just not every company. There is no company or workforce or job that is free from not having bad segments to it.
There are some amazing and wonderful, I'm sure, general contractors in the Nashville area. If you don't know all of their names, go to Build KG and go talk to the Kingston Group, because then they'll take all of that concern out of the equation. And again, doesn't mean there's not good ones, but there are lots of bad ones. So don't work with the bad ones. Don't take that risk. Go call the Kingston Group. BuildKG.com is the website. And what should folks do with $49.99, Zach? If you've got an extra $49.99 per year, what should you do?
You should go to BroadwaySportsMedia.com, use promo code Insiders, get your first month 99 cents, and then it bumps up after that. But do the annual. Skip over that. Go to the annual one and save over 40% if you do that. There's so much great stuff going down the pipeline. Easton, right before we came on the show, was talking to me, talking about article ideas and all this stuff that's going to be happening, and scheduling all these meetups and meets and greets and Zoom calls and videos and podcasts. I mean, all kinds of different stuff that's happening over at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. It's hyper local focus. We aren't expanding and leaving you hanging on quality content.
Yeah, there you go. So make sure you check it out. Of course, follow all the accounts. Check out all the other shows as well. And you know what? If you want to go to the national scene best of and vote, find the category that's like best live stream football show about the Titans and SEC football, and write in a football show, like, we would not hate you for that. Like, go ahead and write that in if you want. Check out the F Words Pod, Music City Audible, Club and Country, Fringe Element for the SEC folks. We got all kinds of stuff, the YouTube page as well. And obviously, if you're watching this on the YouTube page, we certainly appreciate you guys supporting us, and share the show. Tell somebody about the product. We do appreciate it. All right. You're going to hear from Kevin Byard. I had a chance to go into an NFL locker room, Zach, for the first time since 2019. It was very odd. Everyone was in there. All the reporters were in there on Wednesday. It was very interesting, but I had a chance to get like about 3 minutes with Kevin Byard trying to explain the Titans culture. So we'll play that for you guys coming up a little bit later on. We'll talk about the 53-man roster, some of the smart decisions, Josh Gordon, Jon Robinson talking about COVID excuses.
It's a loaded show.
Dude, we got so much shit to get to. And then, of course, week one in the SEC, we've got some rapid fire. We got games on Thursday night we'll get to. We got some teams on upset alert. And then, of course, we've got some major stuff coming in the form of the biggest games in the SEC. Real quickly, if you would like to be a part of our fantasy league on a football show, we've got 4 spots left. So make the case either in the comments right now or on Twitter at Braden Gall, at FWordsPod. Make the case for you to be in the league. We'll pick 4 more people, and then we're going to have the draft next week. And next week, big news. That's all I'm going to say. Next week, big news. You'll get a podcast on Monday, and then we'll be back live on Thursday. And I'm just saying you should tune in. That's all I'm going to say. Sound good?
Got to tune in. Massive news coming down the pipeline. Game-changing stuff for a football show. Maybe even ways for you to interact with us in person.
Ooh, in person?
In person.
You get to hear me gas bag and bloviate in person. That sounds just extraordinary for everybody. Yeah. All right. So with that being said, week number 1 in the SEC, folks, it's finally here, and it is full of monster football games.
I mean, I've never seen a week 1 slate in the SEC like this, possibly ever, where you're talking about at least 4 games that are statement games, like season-defining games for some teams. Like we'll talk about, but Georgia versus Oregon, Florida versus Utah, LSU versus FSU, and then Arkansas versus Cincinnati. Then you got 4 games that are going to be exciting because they could be closer games than what people think, and some teams could get upset. And then, I mean, you got some other games but you're talking about 8 games total, right? I mean, 8 games coming out of the SEC right out of the gate as being some of the most exciting, most impactful games. I'm just excited for it. I don't think I've been excited for week 1 college football like this in a long, long time.
Yeah, there are some duds. A&M, Alabama, Auburn, all playing with like 40-plus point favorites. Tennessee's a 35-point favorite on Thursday night. I mean, obviously, I'm laying the points and taking the balls in that one. But we'll kind of rapid fire some of all of those. But here's the thing. The Pac-12 and the SEC with their 2 big games, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically about each game, but they could murder the Pac-12's hopes. The SEC could absolutely murder the Pac-12's playoff hopes in one day. In one day. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it could. And that is, if you're a Pac-12 fan, you are concerned about the Utah-Florida game specifically, because if Utah, and we can move into our preview, because I agree with you, this is one of the best first weekends I can remember in the SEC. It's also great everywhere else. Thursday night, you got Big Ten games, you got Backyard Brawl, West Virginia, Pittsburgh, you got Notre Dame, Ohio State, you got great games everywhere. But Utah, Florida is the opportunity for Billy Napier, the Florida Gators, in their first game as a rebuilding program to knock off a program that has playoff expectations. And Utah is supposed to be the big, bad physical team that could come in there and push them around. I'm picking that to happen. I am picking Utah to go in there and wear them down with one of the best offensive lines. This is a natural progression for Utah. But if Florida somehow pulls an upset and Anthony Richardson looks spectacular doing so, that's almost could single-handedly destroy the entire Pac-12's hopes of having a playoff team this year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I have said from the outset that there's something about what's being talked about in Florida, what they've already got brewing just in his first year, that has kind of piqued my interest about this team. And I really, at the end of last year, and even though they hired Billy Napier, I wasn't really like interested in anything about Florida. But now I'm like, everything you hear, the compliments he gets and all this stuff, I'm gonna go for the upset. I'm going against you
I
here.
like it. I like
in
it.
that this is a defining game for the season of Florida. Because if they go in and beat Utah, and listen, SEC football is superior to Pac-12 football in every way. So if they go in
minus the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah,
minus
that is true. Which is surprising why Josh Gordon is here. But I digress.
And mushrooms.
Yeah, I digress. I think that if they win this game, not only does it show SEC dominance right out of the gate against the Pac-12, but it also shows that Florida is going to be a force to reckon with. And I've said on this show a few times that I think a lot of people are discounting Florida a little bit because they do have a tough start to the schedule. But if you get this in, who do they play next week?
They got Kentucky at home, and Kentucky
letdown game. That's a trap game.
Well, but Kentucky's lost Chris Rodriguez and Jordan Wright. They're arguably their non-quarterback best two players. They're suspended. We're not sure when they're coming back. This is I agree about how this defines Florida's season. Now, it won't define the Billy Napier area because it's one game and he's got a long way to build it. If I'm being honest, my concern about Florida is about the wide receivers and, more importantly, the depth along the defensive line. And Utah is built to exploit both of those things. And so, in theory, this should be a celebratory moment for Utah to go down to the swamp and put a feather in their cap, a road SEC win on their way to a Pac-12 title, potentially in a playoff spot. But they're only a 2.5-point favorite. I cannot tell if Vegas knows something about Anthony Richardson in Florida, because I'm with you. I like Billy Napier a lot. Or if it's just sort of like this, well, we know Vegas and the SEC gets more play and more people are going to gamble on the SEC and they're going to give them more love and for being at home, and they're just trying to hedge here and get the money split. So I don't know about the point spread is weird. Every bone in my body says Utah minus 2.5 is a no-brainer.
Wow. That's big. And you know what? I think that people should, you are a college football expert. Probably one of the greatest college football minds across the nation, maybe even in the world.
Maybe the greatest.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that they should take your advice and take that, because I'm sure it's minus 110.
Yeah, I think it's I can pull it up real fast if you want me to.
But I think that the people should jump in on that if the odds are good and stuff. But a Florida money line upset.
I like that. Yeah.
Ooh, I may have to get in there on that one.
That's value right there, though. That's a value play. So I'm good with that.
Is this, out of all the games that we're going to be talking about, and there's 4 of them, is this the most intriguing one? Because there's a lot of unknowns on both sides, or to me it's like I'm trying to tune into this game specifically, set time, and watch this game specifically. For me,
I think it is the most important college football game in the entire country.
Woo! I love it. I love it. I like it.
Because no matter what happens, it is a huge story.
Yes.
If Utah goes in there and wins, they have set themselves up with a committee resume road win against I don't want to say high quality, but a quality SEC opponent that is going to build their resume on the way to a potential playoff spot. If they lose, the Pac-12 could be done, because the next game we're about to talk about, even though I think it's going to be much better than people think, Oregon and Georgia, there is no chance that Oregon's going to win the game. They're a 17-point underdog. Georgia's not going to lose this game. It's in Atlanta. But Oregon, defensively, offensive line, very, very strong along the line of scrimmage. So it's going to challenge Georgia's reworked defense in the first half. But Bo Nix is still the quarterback. So to me, I like Georgia's going to win the game. And if Florida pulls the upset, then you have arguably the best 2 teams in the Pac-12 losing in week 1. That is a huge story no matter what happens.
Let me ask you a game. What's the or about this game? Because is this an under game? Like, is this one where you bet the under? Because it seems like with Bo Nix, and I know Oregon has some juice to their defense, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yes, they are
Yeah.
loaded. They have 2 linebackers that are going to look like SEC linebackers.
Right.
Noah Sewell, and who's Penei Sewell's younger brother, and Justin Flo, 2 5-star kids. They are heat-seeking missiles. It is going to be fun to watch them against
I feel like betting the under seems like I would almost take Oregon's points, and I would bet the under because I feel like this is going to be a lot closer game than what people think. Now,
I tend to agree with you.
So I look at it this way: it's if Georgia wins by 3 points. Okay, so let's say they win by 3 points.
Oh man,
what does that say about Georgia, and what does that say about Oregon?
All right, that's a great question. It would say one that all the I've been hyping up Oregon since March. Like I think they could be a playoff team even with a loss to Georgia. So I think they're very good, but they need good quarterback play. It means that all the things that we think about Oregon are true. One of the best offensive lines in America, one of the most talented front sevens in America, and that the quarterback has been upgraded from last year, who was Anthony Brown. Now it's Bo Nix, and that Bo Nix is sort of now that he's free of the shackles of the plains, he's actually becoming like the player we all thought he could become. And so I think that's what it tells us about Oregon. What it tells us about Georgia is that replacing 15 players and all that talent on defense is going to take a little bit longer than we think. And I think this is the most interesting part of the game. Oregon's offensive line versus Georgia's defensive front. If Georgia just shuts that shit down, then they're going back to the playoff, and they're going to be in the Atlanta for the SEC championship game, and all that 5-star talent that they're replacing 5-star talent. Like they lost all these guys to the draft, and they're replacing them with 5-star guys. Like this isn't like Ole Miss going to the portal for like 22 guys. This is Georgia took 0 players in the portal. 0. Kirby Smart looked at his roster. We're like, we're good. we're good. So it's about Georgia's defense maybe being a little slower, and then of course the damn commentary about Stetson Bennett will never end at that point. So
if the Oregon's defense has a good chance to really make some noise against Stetson Bennett and get that, I know that's your least favorite. I feel like it's your least favorite player topic this year. The narrative that Stetson Bennett is not a good quarterback.
I'm so tired of it. Like,
yeah,
he led 2 75-yard touchdown drives against Alabama in the national championship game to win a ring. He was one of the most efficient players in the entire country. He's got the best tight end room I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a tight end room like Georgia's got this year with Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington, and Eric Gilbert. They're going to be unbelievably creative with those pieces on offense. They have one of the best offensive lines in America. Like, Georgia ain't going anywhere, folks. Like, I think they're underrated. I think Georgia's actually underrated. I would not gamble on this game, Zach. I like where you're going with the under that, there's some like feeling out happening early on.
This feels like one of those games where it's either going to be a blowout or it's going to be extremely close and low scoring.
I lean towards
Georgia can easily just blow them out.
I lean towards blowout. The over-under is 52.5. That's a pretty small number.
That is a small number for college.
But I think you're right, though. I think this is more like a 24-3, 27-7, 30-10 kind of game. Like, so that either Oregon backdoor covers or Georgia barely covers, but that they're both low scoring because they're both very good defensive teams. I mean, I think the only way they get to that 52 is if Georgia scores like 40 or 45 points, which I guess is possible, but I wouldn't bet on that. So I'm not touching that game. But
Gotcha.
that is a fascinating good on good matchup along the line of scrimmage to keep an eye
on. I'm a lot more interested in this game than I was probably like 3 or 4 months ago. Like
Oregon's sneaky good.
Yeah, Oregon can make a little bit of noise in this game. It just depends, can they hold up for 4 quarters? Because eventually Georgia's going to push their way through.
And also, you've got a quarterback that Kirby Smart has played against 3 times in Bo Nix. Dan Lanning, the head coach at Oregon, just left Kirby Smart's coaching staff last year, won a ring with Georgia. Then there's a receivers coach for Oregon that's now on Georgia's coaching staff. So there's all this like cross-pollination that's happening where like both sides know each other extremely well. So it's going to be fascinating X's and O's to watch for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. And I think this game is a little interesting. Florida State versus Louisiana State, the battle of the states. And I saw a tweet or an article. I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was a tweet for an article. And it said that Brian Kelly should have Nick Saban-like expectations. And I thought that was such a great thing because Brian Kelly's coming in and he needs to be coming in and start winning big games right away because that's who he's supposed to be. I feel like there shouldn't be, it was a rebuild year for Brian Kelly. If he's as good as he says he is with SEC talent, he should be making statement again. Do I think he should be winning a championship like first go around? No. But the expectations for this year should be dominating games that they're supposed to dominate. And, and then next year should be, okay, if they did what they were supposed to do in year one, year two should be championships.
I think that's fair, especially at LSU when if knuckleheads like Les Miles and Coach O can win national titles, then Brian Kelly should be able to as well. So I think that's completely fair. Expectations at LSU should be national championship. He's also been to the playoff twice and the BCS title game once. Like he passed Newt Rockne. Like you can't pass Newt Rockne and not be good. So I think
he wasn't very good when he got to those playoff games.
This is what makes him interesting. This is why. And actually, I thought Notre Dame acquitted itself very well in 2020 in the playoff against Alabama. I thought they gave Alabama, like they didn't challenge Bama, but they played Bama as well as anybody did that year, other than Auburn, really. So I think. Here's the thing. The reason he's at LSU is to get that fifth star player, like that extra star on every recruit. And they can't do that at Notre Dame because of self-imposed sort of like limitations, whether that's behavioral or educational or whatever, and geography. He went to LSU to fish in a bigger pond. That's it. And then he went fishing, by the way, for the first time in his entire life. He caught a fish. He said at media days to me, he was like, yeah, I caught a fish for the first time in my life. He's like 63 years old. Like, what the hell have you been doing with your life, Brian Kelly? Like, you're a millionaire and you've never been fishing. Anyway, end of sidebar. You're in Louisiana, dude. You got to anyway. So the point is, they're going to be much better, quicker than people think, and then they're going to plateau. And the question is, can he recruit with Fisher, Smart, and Saban? And if he can, then LSU can. Then I think LSU can compete at that level.
This will be an interesting game because I think Florida State has the edge. Front seven versus the O line. Like I think that Florida State's front seven is better than the O line for LSU.
That's fair.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what Brian Kelly can scheme up to get something like that basically knocked out of the way, right? I mean,
it helps having a mobile quarterback.
Yeah. This seems like a game that would be a good under bet on too, because on the flip side, LSU's front seven is way better than Florida State's offensive line.
Yes.
Like it feels like it's going to be one of those games where you're not going to really know about either one of these teams' offenses. And then next week, you're going to be like, oh, where was this offense week one?
Yeah. So Florida State's already played a game, which is weird. They beat Duquesne, and it was whatever. I don't even know if you can learn anything in that game. We've missed the most important part about this game: the complete and utter chaotic, drunken debauchery that will be taking place around the game.
And it's sold out. It is a sold-out game.
Florida State is one of the trashiest football programs in the history of college football. They're right there with Arizona State. You're going to need just bring extra penicillin shots with you when you go to Florida State games. When LSU plays in New Orleans, it's total chaos. I think the football on the field is going to match all of that because of what you said. Great defensive line for LSU. Not sure about Florida State's offensive line. Quarterbacks that like to run around but sometimes make mistakes. This whole game screams complete and utter chaos on Sunday night, and I'm here for it. It is going to be lack of discipline, lack of fundamentals, total unknowns on this side of the ball for LSU. New coach. The French Quarter is going to be completely destroyed at the end of the night. Like it's just going to be it's everything I love about college football and chaos and the unknown. And I like LSU. I like LSU to win the game. I like them to cover. This is one I might put a few bucks on, lay the 3 points, because I just don't think Florida State's there yet. And Brian Kelly is a proven winner. So I'll take LSU.
If Florida State wins this game by, I would say, a touchdown or more. I would say a field goal is possible, but let's say a touchdown or more. What are LSU fans thinking on when they sober up the next day?
Damn, dude. I mean, that's not going to go over well. Even though the spread says, hey, it's kind of even, right? I do think that a first-year coach gets a little bit of a pass.
But I think it's first-year head coach in particular. I mean, that's the thing is like, isn't he It's not Josh Heupel coming in. You know what I'm saying? It's Brian Kelly. Is it Heupel
Yeah,
or Heupel?
Josh Heupel.
Okay.
And I think it's a much bigger deal for Mike
Always
Norvell at
second guess
Florida.
myself.
I think it's a much bigger deal for Mike Norvell at Florida State if he were to lose, because he's been there already, and they're supposed to be making progress. Now LSU wasn't a rebuilding job the way Florida State was. I just think these are like two programs that absolutely love to hit it hard, and then they are all in New Orleans, which is one of my favorite places in the world. And Stoney says this, like, Utah Florida might be the most important game of the week. But if you're picking one to go to, LSU Florida State might be the one I might go to as well. Like, it's not a home game for somebody, which I don't like. I like being on campuses, but my God, and the game we're about to talk about is the exact opposite of this, because Cincinnati, Arkansas, like, if you love sound gap defense and form tackling and like staying in your lane and following the instructions the coaches give you and playing within the within the offense and like just everything. These are the two most fundamentally sound, disciplined football teams you're ever going to see. It's the exact opposite of the LSU Florida State game, which I think is going to be total chaos. This is going to be like a football nerd's dream. Luke Fickell, Barry Odom's defense, two defenses that are like, they never make mistakes ever. And it's going to be I'm the nerdy side of me can't wait for this game. Arkansas at home, 6.5 point favorite. Cincinnati's losing like all these first round picks, all these other NFL players. I like Arkansas. I like KJ Jefferson as the difference maker at quarterback. But if you love watching just like fundamentally sound, gap control, stay in your lane, bring your legs and wrap up kind of football, this is your game.
It's almost unfortunate this is kind of a forgettable game and lost among the sea of games college wide, because I think it's a very fascinating game, because you're right, Cincinnati has lost a lot on that, gone to the pros in their key positions, right? They've lost defensive backs, they've lost a quarterback, they've lost their wide receiver. Yep. Where did they go from here? Is Desmond Ritter has been their guy for forever. What does this new offense look like without Desmond Ritter at the helm, who was a pro ready quarterback? And do they have a pro ready quarterback behind them now? Because we know KJ Jefferson is going to be going into the NFL. We know that there's all kinds of defenders that should be playing in the NFL soon, coming from Arkansas. So what does this game? This game to me is a game that I'm with you. I love all the stuff that you described.
Yep.
And I think there is fascinating aspects to this game, because if KJ Jefferson comes out and this Cincinnati defense kind of smothers him, there goes his stock just a little bit right out of the gate. And he's fighting for his life. He's fighting for millions and millions of dollars every week in every game.
Yeah, this is about make your statement. Yeah. If you want to be a star in this league, Hendon Hooker, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Stetson Bennett, Bryce Young, go down the list of guys. If you want to make your Will Rogers at Mississippi State, if you want to make a statement and put your name on the map, now he's already kind of there, because I would argue he's the second best quarterback in the league. But if this is one of those where now, because where Cincinnati is strong, as long they have all 5 starters back on the offensive line, so Cincinnati's going to be strong at the point of attack on offense. It's the defense that I'm concerned about, but Luke Fickell's really good on that side of the ball. I'm sure Mike Vrabel will be watching. But I think it's about KJ Jefferson making a statement and saying to the rest of the country, like, yo, y'all, look at me. I'm a stud. I got some Cam Newton in my game. I'm 6'5". I'm 235. I can run and throw it. We're going to win a lot of ball games in Fayetteville. You better watch us. I actually like Arkansas to handle their business in this one. I'm not picking any upsets right now, so I hate that, but I think Arkansas plays motivated, chip on their shoulder. You know, Cincinnati, they're getting a little bump from last year, I think. I think a normal group of 5 team that loses that much NFL talent can't normally replace it. So, Luke Fickell's a great coach, though.
Arkansas has, to me, okay, LSU doesn't win the game, not a big deal. If Georgia barely beats Oregon, not a big deal. Florida loses to Utah, it's not really that big of a deal. If Arkansas loses to Cincinnati, I mark that as a big deal.
Yep. That would be a full touchdown upset at home to a group of 5 team.
Yeah.
That replaced everything.
And that can't happen when you have KJ Jefferson and this defense. You just cannot let it happen. And I think that I think I'm with you. I think Arkansas does handle the business, but this is the game that I'm really probably most unsure of. Like, I think LSU's going to win. I'm very confident that Florida's going to win. I'm confident that
Ooh,
Georgia's going to win. I
okay.
am not as confident in Arkansas because Arkansas is kind of a team that kind of just lets teams stay around in games. They never really shut out
Yeah,
teams or keep teams away. And
that's fair. That's
it's
fair.
kind of like the Tennessee Titans. Like, Tennessee Titans have a hard time putting their foot on someone's throat and just going the extra mile. And right now, I feel like Arkansas's been that way, but this could be the game where they start putting everything together and change that.
That's what I want to see from KJ. Make the statement. Make a big, put up big numbers on the ground through the air. Make the statement. I know you want to. You got some studio space to explore here in just a second. Jason on the comment says, if there's a fantasy space to be had, I'd like to take it. My case is that I will probably talk a lot of shit and make it uncomfortable for everyone. I think that's a good case.
Love it.
I think that's a good
More
case.
shit talkers.
Jason, shoot me a DM at Braden Gall. We'll get you in there. I appreciate that. I like that. Now, before you do any more, because you're about to do some shit talking yourself here, Kingston Group, buildkg.com. If you're looking to make a home renovation, just talk to them. My wife and I are looking at doing some stuff. We've got Kingston Group coming in and taking a look at all this stuff to give us design ideas, to give us the best price point, and to make sure that somebody kind of walks us through the entire process. No concerns about anybody taking our money and then bolting in the middle of a project. So Kingston Group, buildkg.com, of course, is the website. Go check them out. Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm, and they're award-winning, Zach. Award-winning.
They're like me, award-winning.
Which I'm assuming is about to be, we're about to win some awards with this next rant. So the floor is yours.
These dirty maroon cowboy fucks in Starkville. The Memphis Tigers are coming to eat your lunch. I cannot wait for the Memphis Tigers to upset the Mississippi State, whatever they are now. Aren't they like Sharks or something? Or
that's the other Mississippi school.
Oh, the other Mississippi. They're all the same. Mississippi is one big, massive turd of a state. Every town is the same. Everything, it stinks. The only state that stinks worse than Mississippi, physically stinks, there's a stench to Mississippi, is Arkansas. Arkansas is the only state that smells worse.
Wow.
They're all awful.
The Ozarks, Northwest, it's a pretty
smells
state.
Awful. It smells like bear shit everywhere, and nobody bothers to clean it up. It's horrible. When you go from Memphis over to West Memphis, Arkansas, just crossing the bridge, and once you're over in Arkansas, to go buy your 30 packs of beers, because they used to have 30 packs of beers over there at a Walgreens, so we'd go there all the time. Nice. Smelled awful. I wish that I had surgical masks to wear back then.
Dude, Arkansas with the shrapnel here.
Anyway, I'm getting off topic.
Now, great documentary, by the way, about West Memphis, Arkansas.
Yeah.
If you want to really ruin your Friday night, go watch that documentary.
And I agree with Stoney. Fuck Missouri while we're at it. I got pulled over for a speeding ticket there, and I hate them. The cop was an asshole the whole time, and he pulled me over in a 10-lane highway. So fuck Missouri.
Wow.
Anyway, fuck Mississippi State. They're annoying ass cowbells. It's the worst gimmick in the college football. I hate it. It is so fucking annoying. And I'm telling you right now, the Memphis Tigers are going to upset Mississippi State. There's your upset pick.
Lock of the week, Mississippi State -16 at home against Memphis. No Calvin Austin. No officials making terrible calls this year like they did last year and screwing up the game. This one's at home. Mississippi State exercises some demons, and Mississippi State rolls over your Memphis Tigers. Memphis State, go back home.
Not going to happen. This is going to be like when Eli Manning threw 4 interceptions against the Memphis Tigers on the opening game. We're coming for that ass, Mississippi State.
I love the phrase "coming for that ass." Oh man, we've gotten crude today on the show. All right, I will say this: 16 points though for a season opener against a Group of 5 team. That is not a big number, and Memphis beat them last year, even though they cheated. It's totally fine.
Memphis did not cheat. They played within the confines of the rules.
They cheated. Although again, they got a good quarterback, so I think they could score some points. But I'm very, very high on Mississippi State this year. Give me Hail State, go Bull Puppies. Give me those cowbells, baby.
Yeah, fuck them.
Some other teams on upset alert. We talked about Kentucky with some players getting We'll go through these pretty quickly here. Kentucky against Miami of Ohio, only a 16-point spread. I'm not super concerned about that. Carvassier Smoke is going to step in and play running back for Chris Rodriguez, who got a DUI and now is suspended back in spring, and so now he's suspended. I think the bigger concern for Kentucky is next week against Florida if those guys are still suspended, which they probably will be. That's a big one there. Two to keep an eye on. Troy is better than people think.
Mm-hmm.
They will be playing Old Mississippi, and Troy's like a 21-point underdog. I would take the points. I would take Troy and the points in that one because I think that defense is better than people think. Ole Miss wins, but keep an eye on that one. And the real one to watch is Georgia State, South Carolina. I want you to remember that I said it right now on the show. Do not be surprised if Georgia State and that rushing attack with Sean Elliott, the coach who used to work for South Carolina, goes into Columbia and plays extremely well. Give me Georgia State Panthers plus the 12 on the road against Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks. Cock Commander will be shaking in his spurs at the end of that game. I'm not picking the outright upset, Zach, because I don't have the balls, but I like Georgia State plus the points. I like Troy plus the points. Couple of upsets there to keep an eye on in the SEC.
When will institutions and businesses learn that you should not ask the public to name something? They're lucky that nobody submitted Cocky McCock face for this for what they're talking about. That's what I would if I would have known that this was going on. I would have submitted Cocky McCock face.
Cocky McDick face.
It's got to be Cocky McCock face.
Just cock,
like Bodie McBoat face.
Just all cock. Just all cock. Just all cock.
Yeah, it's got to be. I'll just all cock.
We are terrible people.
No, I think it's interesting. I think Georgia State could kind of like they did Tennessee a few years ago, upset this team. I mean, why couldn't they? I mean, what is it about South Carolina outside of Shane Beamer being like Ryan Gosling over there? Everybody's just all in love with Shane Beamer. Outside of that, what do the South Carolina Gamecock Cocky McCock faces have?
I can't with you. They have they've got an upgraded quarterback and receiving core, good tight ends. They're going to throw the ball a little bit. Their offensive line is garbage. And again, Georgia State likes to pound the football, and South Carolina's defensive front wasn't exactly all that last year. They should have lost to Vanderbilt. They probably shouldn't have gotten to a bowl game. So I think South Carolina is a little overhyped here. And again, there's a reason that this is a 12-point spread. Like, people were talking South Carolina 8 wins this year. 8 wins for South Carolina.
Yeah.
Why are you a 12-point favorite at home against Georgia State then? That doesn't make
sense. Seems like a game that should be, when you're scrolling through it, you're kind of surprised it doesn't say like 24. The point spread's not 24.
This is exactly what Vegas wants. It screams take South Carolina.
Yeah.
Which means you go the other way.
Right.
Take Georgia State Panthers, baby, plus the 12. There you go.
Like it. I'm writing that down because I don't want to forget it when we get off, because I'm going to make that bet.
All right. You want to go rapid fire for some other teams? Because Tennessee Volunteers, by the way, are going to play a football game on Thursday night, favored by 35.
What about Ball State, which is why South Carolina should be up higher than what they were. But what about Ball State putting out this graphic and misspelling the word Tennessee?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, you didn't see that? Lucas Panzica, I
believe,
misspelled
Tennessee.
They misspelled Tennessee in the graphic.
Oh,
in the graphic. God. And either
this is an institution. This is what David Letterman's pissed off about this.
Yeah. So
where's Blaine Bishop? Isn't he a Ball State guy? So
there were people who are like, we can't wait to play, or can't wait to beat Ball Tate's ass.
Ball Tate's
leaving off words. But what kind of social media people do they have over there running this thing that don't know how to spell Tennessee?
It's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I'm trying to find it right now. That's pretty bad.
One thing from this game, Josh Heupel and Hendon Hooker have to make a statement game, and they need to win by the 35 points by minimum.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They got to win by 35 points by minimum. He's oh my godding the tweet, not oh my godding my
No. Yeah, you're right. For those not watching, which you should be, of course.
Yes.
I just saw the tweet. That is
Hendon Hooker has to come out slinging that ball. They need to win by that 35 points.
They're going to score a boatload of points. Here's what I want to see from Tennessee, and we'll be quick on this. I want to see havoc plays on defense. I want to see guys like turnovers, sacks, interceptions, tackles for loss, drive stopping plays. I want to see players on the defense step into roles where they wreak havoc and make plays. Because I'm not worried about the offense on Thursday night. They're going to roll. They're going to crush them. Who steps in outside of Barron and Young on the outside of pass rushers? They need playmakers on defense. Guys who end drives, like cause problems, havoc, big plays. That's what I'm looking for Tennessee on defense. I like Utah State plus 42 points against Alabama. You
I
want to
don't
know
know why this is a primetime game.
You want to know why? Because Saban's going to stop.
Yeah. Well, but he's not one of those guys that does stop.
No, he wants to yell at his team. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh, so you're saying that he's going to stop on purpose.
Nick Saban is going to have guaranteed 3 to 5 insane outbursts this year in the media because he knows his team is so good that he has to feed him. Like he's got to get the rat poison thing out of there, right? He's going to take his foot off the pedal intentionally. Watch this. He's going to take the foot off the pedal intentionally. Utah State's going to score late. It's going to go from like 42-3 to 42-10. All of a sudden, Utah State's going to be covering, and Nick Saban is going to lose his shit on the sideline. He is going to lose it. And it's all going to be because he's trying to keep his team focused on whatever the hell he's trying to do, which is win a national championship, I guess.
Here's what I'm going to say about this game. I'm
Utah
a noted
State.
Alabama fan. I will not be watching this game. I will be watching Florida versus Utah.
I really want to go to the soccer match, man. Austin coming to town, 2 MVP candidates, but I can't cheat on my football, man. It's a football show. Not football.
Do they have TVs there yet?
No.
Fucking stadium?
No, they don't have TVs in the stadium. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Geodis. Come on, Geodis. A&M, keep an eye on Haynes King, the quarterback. They made a decision to go to him. He's a guy that if he's good this year, Texas A&M could make a playoff. So keep an eye on the quarterback for Texas A&M. They're playing Sam Houston State. Vandy, how about this? I told you guys, take the over for Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
If they beat Elon this weekend, they are 2-0.
I like that it's a question. If they do it. If they beat Elon Musk's university.
If they beat the guy who built a spaceship shaped as a penis to go to Mars, 2 wins for Vandy. They only need 1 more and they hit the over the entire season. So keep an eye on that one. I told you guys to take the Vandy over 2.5. They got that. If they can win this game, I think they'll handle Elon. But if you beat Elon, you're 2-0 on the season, and the greatest team in the SEC currently to date, the only team with 2 wins. So what else? Auburn's going to look good. I love that Brian Harsin is 3 days away from starting his second season, and his boss is now not there anymore as of today. Yesterday was his last day on the job. The guy who hired him, and now he's out. Alan Green is out. So keep an eye on that. What else we got in the SEC?
Missouri
I think that's everything.
Is the last one.
That's Thursday. Just keep an eye on the freshmen. They got a 5-star receiver, Luther Burden. Brady Cook's a young quarterback, so keep an eye on the offense. They should be fun. They're a 20-point favorite over Louisiana Tech. That's that could be a fun offense to keep an eye on. Watch them develop over the course of the year. Eli Drinkowitz has been bringing in some 5-star talent on offense, so just check out the young talent there from Missouri on offense. Should be fun to watch. Otherwise, I think that does it for the SEC. So
I think we're good.
Okay. Before we hear from Kevin Byard, make sure you go to Weiss Liquors, of course, one of our amazing and spectacular title sponsors of the show. Uber Eats, Weiss Liquors. This is your cue, Zach.
Oh, Weiss Liquors. They drive so you can drink.
I love it. We're getting there. We are professionals, I promise, despite everything you've heard the last 49 minutes. Okay, so go to Weiss Liquors. If you pop in and you buy some booze, say $4.40 at the register, you will get, of course, 10% off. So that's tax-free booze. 1932, locally owned and operated independently by a local family here in Nashville for almost 100 years. So go check them out right there near the Titan Stadium on Gallatin and Main Street, right there in East Nashville. So go check them out. Weiss Liquors and the Kingston Group. We love you guys. So go check them out. Okay. We're going to talk Titans. We're going to talk 53-man roster and J-Rob, and we'll talk some of that stuff today. This is mostly a college football show, but I had a chance on Wednesday to go into the locker room, and first time since 2019, and I had a chance to talk to Kevin Byard for a couple of minutes about what I want to know is why is it working for the Titans? Why does Mike Vrabel's communication style work? How do you describe the culture on a granular level? And here was what Kevin Byard had to say to me.
I mean, one way I would describe culture is when things are going bad in the building, whether it's, any type of adversity, and I was just in the football sense, like when you drop 2 games or you drop a game against a team that you should have beat, or a disappointing loss or something like that, how do you respond to that? Because at the end of the day, I don't think you really, how would I say, you don't necessarily raise your level to, I might be saying this wrong, but the things that you do every single day that's how you overcome, bad times or stuff like that. It's not like you raise your level or you lower your level to competition. You can just raise your level to what's your standard, like what's your base level type deal. And I think that the stuff that we do every single day, and I will use an example, we've done a lot of joint practices. I've been here with Mike Vrabel, and usually when I'm talking to guys on other teams, at the end of those practices or in the middle days, like, y'all guys practice like this every day? You guys practice hard like this every day? And I'm telling some of the young guys, like, this is what helps us win games. When the national media or whatever says that we don't have all the talent or we don't have a lot of superstars, we don't have a lot of Pro Bowls, whatever it may be, but I've never had a losing season since I've been here. It's because of those, the way we practice, the type of guys we bring in this locker room, the way we buy in. That's the culture. You know what I'm saying? Those everyday things that we do allows us to, win those close games or be able to play 91 guys and still be a number one seed. I think that's when I look at culture it's the things that you do every single day continuously. That's what your culture is. So when because it's easy to ride the emotions of the year, but when things are going bad, what do you fall back on? You fall back on your foundation or your culture versus, when you look at teams that maybe have a lot of talent, when they face adversity, you might call them front runners or maybe, but it's just not a front running culture.
Is that a Vrabel accountability, like every day, like teaches that every day to you guys in terms of accountability?
No, absolutely. And like I said, I think at this point, especially when he first came in, obviously his first couple of years here, he really had to stress that really hard.
Yeah.
But I think now that he's been here for going on 5 years or whatever it may be, I feel like I think it's going on 4 years. We have the leadership in place that we're able to hold guys accountable. It's not just Vrabel always has been doing it. And that's how you want it to be. Like, he's going to hold guys accountable, but you have to get to a point where the guys in the locker room are holding guys accountable. He can focus on other things, obviously coaching the team, and not having to be that enforcer, that asshole, whatever it may be. So like I said, we have a good pulse on, what works and how to win games. So when guys come here, we just not necessarily get on it, but let them know, hey, this is how we do things here. And if you want to be here, if you want to be a part of this winning culture, this is how we're going to do things.
Cool. So that was Kevin Byard. Some of that's cliches, but I thought some of it sort of explains that your expectations when you show up, you better be doing your job, that players are holding other players accountable. I also had a chance to talk to Austin Hooper about this because he's a new face, and I said, was it noticeable from day one? And he said, absolutely. It was a totally different thing. And I love Byard's comments about the joint practices where everyone's like, do y'all always practice like this? And he's like, yeah, man, this is how we do it.
Yeah, I think it's great because what I like about it is essentially when Vrabel first got here, a big to-do was made about leadership from the players. This team has like leadership from the players and blah, blah, blah. What I like about the interview is that basically Vrabel, for his answer was, I don't expect them to be leaders. I expect them to be players. I am the guiding hand, essentially, is what he said. What that was, to me, was these guys are obviously not ready to be leaders, and I'm not going to force anybody into a position that they don't want to be in. And he led by example, and now other players have taken his example and run with it. And what this tells me, a lot of people credit Mike Mularkey and Delanie Walker for turning around the locker room. Kevin Byard's words right there let me know Mike Vrabel turned around the locker room.
Yeah.
I'm not giving credit to Mike Mularkey and them anymore because Kevin Byard said, essentially, we did not know how to be leaders, pretty much. Like, we weren't ready for what Vrabel wanted.
And he said, he was like, he had to be on us pretty hard early.
Yeah.
And now he doesn't have to as much.
If the locker room was turned around with a bunch of great locker room leaders, that wouldn't have had to happen.
Yeah,
and that's okay that it did happen because in the end, we've talked about it almost all offseason. The change in Kevin Byard's vocalness and how he really opened up to you off this question was fantastic. And then Ryan Tannehill's attitude has changed. And then you hear about David Long knowing that he's going to have to step up. Everybody knows what's on the line. Taylor Lewan's progression as a leader has really blossomed under Mike Vrabel. It was going nowhere fast under Mike Mularkey in the first few years of Vrabel. It's amazing. And we talk about all the time, the Mike Vrabel effect that he has on players.
Yep. And I would give some credit to Lewan too. I mean, maturing, getting older, becoming a father, like I think a lot of that stuff, he's got to get credit for some of that too. And I was talking to Mike Herndon about this on Twitter real quickly, where he was like, you look at some of these pieces, the Titans are getting younger, which is what they want, barely kind of each year. But a lot of we talked about Derrick Henry's contract. There's a lot of guys on this team like Lewan and Tannehill are over 30. And we don't know how long these pieces are all going to be here. And you kind of have to constantly be in a shuffle of like, all right, we're moving on from a veteran, moving on from Jarrell Casey, we're moving on from Logan Ryan, we're moving on from Brett Kern. You have to constantly be shuffling. And what it means is that people like Byard, who probably might be here for longer, they've got to train the next wave of those guys. Like David Long is now, I think, going to blossom into that type of player. Jeffrey Simmons has to become that type of player now, which I think he very much is. So Christian Fulton needs to take over some of those roles. Like you're going to need to see that like next wave of guys kind of come up and take over. I'm just fascinated by the human element of football in a locker room and why it works. Like why does Mike Vrabel work? Why does Sam Pittman work at Arkansas? Why does Nick Saban work at Alabama? Like I'm fascinated by how you get humans to buy into the same thing and then focus on detail every second of the day. Like that is such a hard thing to do. And I think it separates the great coaches in the NFL from the bad ones. And I think Vrabel is as good as it gets when it comes to that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, I think it's going to be, it's very interesting. And we've been on this when people bring up the fact that, is there something going wrong? Is Mike Vrabel losing the team? You know, the stupid shit that gets said here and there.
I think we've been saying
there should be nothing anymore said about Mike Vrabel as a coach and about losing the locker room. Unless he's going in there and murdering people, the locker room is going to be fine.
Which he could do with his bare hands, probably.
He could.
Most of those players,
everybody but Jeffrey Simmons, probably.
I had a chance to talk to a few other guys. The only one that really stood out to me is I talked to Chance Cable for a little while, and I was like, just give me something about Lane. Like, give me something. He goes, yeah, he loves Pilates. I was like, okay.
I love it.
Lane Kiffin lost a bunch of weight, and I don't. Lane Kiffin is so fascinating. Like, he's such a weird dude. He's not the guy that you think he is on Twitter. He's actually like this weird, quiet, like keeps to himself guy. But apparently loves Pilates. Lane Kiffin loves Pilates.
What a weird guy. What a weird guy.
Yeah, he is. All right, 53-man misses. But basically, I think you got like 47 or 48 out of them right. They've made a move now. Racey McMath is on IR. Cody Hollister, come on down. A part of the starting lineup. But the big news, of course, and we'll get to the Dennis Daly trade as well. They add some depth there to the offensive line. But Josh Gordon is on the practice squad. And I don't know what to think of this because I know how talented he was a long time ago, but I also know all the other things he does. Now, I don't personally give a shit if someone smokes weed. I just don't care. It's not that big a deal to me. Medical science has come around on this. The propaganda that took place in our country for 40 years to alienate this stupid plant has disappeared, all but disappeared. We've kind of woken up out of our stupor on this. So I think the treatment of Josh Gordon was probably unfair. But he was good a long time ago, Zach. What do we make of this?
Here's what I make of it is that while he's not the best option for your fifth wide receiver, because that's essentially what he's going to be, I still would like a Preston Williams. I think technically Marcus Johnson would be a little bit better than Josh Gordon. I think there are players out there that they could go get that would be better than Josh Gordon. But what this signals to me is that they want a big-bodied physical receiver who's athletic enough. He's not super athletic. He's athletic enough.
I mean, he was.
He's more. Let me say something. He's more athletic than that fucking Cody Hollister guy.
Yeah, but Hollister does his job. Hollister does his job.
Who cares at this point? You have 50-something other players that can also do his job. He's not a remarkable run blocker, and that's just he's just a guy that gets in people's way. Can't someone else do that? He doesn't have any athletic ability. He's caught some passes here and there for like 40-something yards or 50-something yards in 4 years. Why does Jon Robinson and this staff put on a pedestal the hard-working blue chip and pale guy instead of getting some guys with some fucking upside that could do something different? Racey McMath and Cody Hollister are not even realms of the same athletic ability or same type of wide receiver, where Josh Gordon is a little bit closer to Racey McMath than Cody Hollister is. In the end, this is a wide receiver 5. In the end, that is pass catcher 8 or 9 on this team, like in the pecking order.
Yeah, that's true.
Dontrell Hilliard was always going to get more passes thrown his way than probably Racey McMath was. But the problem is that Racey McMath is your deep threat. Now, I know that Treylon Burks can be the deep threat, but now you're taking and putting an additional role onto a rookie that he may not be really ready for. Now, if he's running the deep outs or running the deep routes, who's coming across the middle to take the slant to the house?
Yeah, definitely not Dez anymore. So.
Yeah, so to me, it's like Cody Hollister doesn't do it for me. Josh Gordon, in all honesty, doesn't do it for me either. He's just better than Cody Hollister. And if that's the bar that this team wants to set, then that's fine. It's just not a good enough bar for me anymore. I'm sick of these they're just guys. I'm sick of the just guys because they happen to be super nice hard workers.
I guess my question is they know more about Josh Gordon than all of us do. And I guess Josh Gordon, again, if you're telling me Josh Gordon is even 80% of what he was when he played in the
I
league,
think you'd be lucky to get that he's 50% of what he was.
I would, and I think you're right. Even at 60%, he is more athletic than Cody Hollister. I'm not arguing. I am not debating who is more athletic. It's more about just remember that Golden Tate guy that everyone thought we should get?
Yeah.
Julio Jones did this too. I mean, I'm not suggesting that Josh Gordon is Julio Jones, but I just don't know, and so I'm okay with him earning his way onto the practice squad and onto the team, and I'll be interested to see what he looks like. If he's been training every day and eating well and is in great shape and all this stuff, then yeah, he's probably much better than Cody Hollister. If he's just taking bong rips and sitting on the couch, then he's not going to be better than Cody Hollister, and that might not be fair to him because again, I don't judge. If you want to sit on a couch and get high, I don't care, but I don't know. I think Cody Hollister has earned more respect.
No, he has not.
Than you are giving him.
No. Why? He doesn't have a touchdown. He doesn't have multiple 100-yard games. He has earned nothing for respect. He is just a guy.
I agree.
He's an average. You could put a mannequin out there and get the same kind of production out of that mannequin. I think it's ridiculous. It's kind of like Mason Kinsey. What good is Mason Kinsey? What good is Des Fitzpatrick? What good are these players that that you've seen enough of? If Cody Hollister was so good, why does he always get cut? Every chance they can get. They cut Cody Hollister and move him off the roster. And they're going to do the same here.
I think it's the floor. There's no upside. I agree with you.
He is the tiny house of wide receivers. He has a low floor and a low ceiling. They're practically the same.
I agree.
A mouse burrows into your wall, like the houses that Jerry used to live in Tom and Jerry. That is his floor and ceiling. That is.
I don't disagree with you. It is the smallest.
Why even mess with them when you got guys like Preston Williams or Vincent Smith? Bring me the unknown guy.
I get that's Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
And again, he's better than Cody Hollister, but he's still not going to fix the problems that they have with Racey McMath potentially being gone 8 to 10 weeks, depending on the injury. It could be as little as 4, but if the hip injury is a fractured hip injury, is going around, then that could be 8 to 10. We've got no clarity, and we probably will never get any clarity other than, Racey McMath isn't on the team today. We're only going to talk about the players that are on the team.
Stoney says, I didn't see Josh Gordon fighting for an extra 6 yards on a play against the Cardinals' third-string defense on Saturday. I don't know who you're defending, Stoney, with that comment. Are you defending me or are you defending Zach? I don't even actually know what you're doing with that comment. But I do appreciate stirring the pot. I do appreciate that. All right, do you want Dennis Daly? What are the Titans getting in with Dennis Daly, going to get him to add? Again, this is a guy who had some potential, played some games, wasn't great, but he is a depth piece.
He looked so relieved and excited to be there, didn't he? In his interview, he looked so happy. I thought maybe he was high. He was so happy. And it was, listen, it's hard for me to judge rookies coming from the disaster of a team that came from Carolina.
Yeah.
And I understand there's not a lot of good tape, but multiple teams were obviously interested in him. I think the Steelers and the Titans were the most interested. And I think that's why you've heard from multiple teams that it was the Steelers and the Titans. And I think that's eventually it was a bunch of teams. Steelers and Titans went up, and then Titans beat out the Steelers.
Yep, I think that's right.
Okay. So I went back and I compared the stats of Dennis Kelly, who played 3 NFL seasons, and Dennis Daly, who played 3 NFL seasons, who both got traded after playing their 3rd season in the NFL to the Tennessee Titans. Dennis Daly was better than Dennis Kelly already. That Dennis Kelly. Now, can he be as good as 2020 Dennis Kelly at right tackle? Can he be that guy? I don't know.
Will he score 2? Will he score 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, we'll see. But here's the thing. You know who made Dennis Kelly that 2020 Dennis Kelly? This staff.
Yeah, it's true.
This staff got the most out of him. So why can't they do the same thing with Dennis Daly? I think it's just one of those things where I'm like, I've never heard of this guy. And the tape's not great, but how much of that is Carolina and Matt Rule just sucking hard. I mean, they are just a horrible staff.
Is this sucking more ass? Is that what this was?
No. I was going to say something else, but I figured I'd keep it a little bit PG-13.
Oh, sure, yeah, because this show's been so PG so far today. I think this is a nice move because of depth, and clearly other people wanted him, which means other people see the value and the upside and the potential and the talent as well. So, I just think adding any piece to the offensive line is a huge boost because I think fans need to prepare themselves for a rough year along the offensive line. I think Derrick Henry masks a lot of that. I think Tannehill being mobile and getting out of the pocket will try to mask some of that. But I think that if the Titans' offensive line is great, they can win the Super Bowl. If the Titans, I am more concerned about the offensive line than I am Ryan Tannehill. How about that?
I think that's been the case all offseason. This does not soothe anything, but this also is a part of what does this mean for next year? This gives him a little bit more flexibility next year because he's on a cheap contract. He'll still be on his rookie contract. No, he will not be on his rookie contract. This is the last year.
Yep. So it's a prove it. It's prove it too.
It's a prove for him. And if you keep signing him to Dennis Kelly like contracts, eventually he's just going to be Dennis Kelly. I mean, and if that's the ceiling, that's his ceiling, right? His ceiling is obviously 2020 Dennis Kelly. And for the people that wanted Dennis Kelly back on the Tennessee Titans after he got cut by the Colts, why?
Yeah,
because he's been battling
because he's a great guy.
Yeah, that's the number one. He's a great guy. I love that Jon Robinson had to mention the Senior Bowl when he was talking about Dennis Daly in his press conference, because obviously, if you went to the Senior Bowl, you're God's gift to fucking football. I mean, just ridiculous.
Hey, don't hate on face-to-face evaluations, Zach, because Jon Robinson clearly needs face-to-face evaluations.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
To draft well. Any other misses before we get to Jon Robinson?
I've done my hits and misses at BroadwaySportsMedia.com.
I was going to say, go.
So you can go to BroadwaySportsMedia.com and I wrote about that.
Check out the podcast too.
Yeah.
Check out F Words Pod, Music City Audible. You guys did a great job covering all the cuts and stuff. So
I thought the biggest surprise was Trey Avery. I think and the cutting of Chris Jackson in favor of Trey Avery. And I was kind of surprised that Chris Jackson cleared waivers. I thought he wouldn't, because most people want defensive back depth.
Theo Jackson getting cut was interesting to me too. That one was very interesting.
If you see his locker is right next to Kevin Byard's.
I talked to him for a second and just about Tennessee stuff, because again I went to middle for a year and then Tennessee, so I had a chance to joke with those guys. And Theo did win the which school is better at football competition. Kevin had to shut up about that pretty quickly. So but I was surprised they cut him. He's a draft pick. He was running as the third safety. Like they're keeping 5 safeties. Like I was a little surprised by that.
Well, I think keeping AJ Moore is a fool's errand and foolish, and I will never be okay with that. And whether a spot went to someone else or went to Theo Jackson doesn't matter. I don't think AJ Moore should be on this team. I wonder, because it came out that Theo Jackson had a concussion. I wonder if there wasn't lingering effects, and instead of putting him on the active roster, give him a little bit of break on the practice squad.
That makes some sense.
I think that Theo Jackson, I feel like Theo Jackson will have a good career for the Tennessee Titans, like a backup safety, like career-long backup safety, but he'll be a contributor. This isn't the end of the road for him. The defensive line, I don't understand 7 defensive linemen for a team that only typically uses 2 or 3 at any given moment. Like
3 of them.
Yeah, give me a break on that.
Well, I wonder, to me, that's like, all right, if Autry's a little banged up, if like you're kind of like hedging your bets there. But yeah, I thought you don't need both Kevin Strong and Deshaun Hand. I'm not sure why you needed both of those guys. So
okay, so here we go. We're going back to the Derrick Henry.
We want to wrap. Okay, Derrick Henry.
We're going back to Derrick Henry. Gets a raise. Okay, so his cap hit, according to overthecap.com, his cap hit for 2022 is now 9.8, which it was 15. So it went down big time for that. So to me, that screams someone's getting signed soon.
Okay. Meaning they wanted space on the cap to go make a move. Okay.
Next year, his cap moved down like $200K, but he's got 3 void years according to overthecap.com. So 3 void years of 1.8 apiece, which is $5.4 million.
Is the move, in your opinion, hypothetically, because they went and traded for an offensive lineman, is it more wide receiver or is it more offensive line? Or am I missing a position?
No, I think that someone's getting paid as far as someone on their team.
Oh, okay. So that would be Amani Hooker, David Long, Jeffrey Simmons.
I'm going to throw something out there. Is Nate Davis holding in?
Ooh, with his new bod?
New body. He was supposedly healthy this whole time, and all of a sudden he's
I'd pay
not
him.
playing.
I'd pay him.
I wonder if there's not a hold-in. That's also why they may have spent a 5th-round pick on a guy that can play right guard.
And why we didn't see him so much for a while at practice.
Just kind of saying.
Okay.
Just throwing a little conspiracy theory out there. Just wondering if this all isn't all connected.
I would say that if you're looking at sort of moving Davis off of the hold-in category just to like who is going to get paid, go with your smallest numbers first, and that's going to be Hooker and David Long and Nate Davis probably before Jeffrey Simmons, right? So
Right.
I think that would be a fair way to look at that. So yeah, that's opening up almost $6 million in cap space plus the 2 from Kern. That's an $8 million raise they could give somebody in theory if they wanted to do that. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, but back to the defensive line thing, it makes no sense. I think I'm going to write an article about Trey Avery. I've read a few articles about him, and then I heard Mike Vrabel's comments and Jon Robinson's comments about him. I think I'm going to write an article about Trey Avery coming up soon about why he may have made the team and what you could take away from his college tape versus now. He played 71 snaps versus the Cardinals.
That's
defensive snaps.
That's a lot of reps.
That is crazy. And he did a really good job, I think, in those 71 snaps at the time. So it'll be interesting to see, is Trey Avery one of those guys that everybody overthought in the draft that probably shouldn't have gone undrafted, but maybe should have gone 5th round? I guess we'll see.
Yep. So are you ready to talk about J-Rob? Because I want to make sure we talk about our sponsors real fast here. Kingston Group, Weiss Liquors. Thank you guys for our support. So all you guys listening, podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're catching us, go to buildkg.com, check out Kingston Group, and go to Weiss Liquors. 10% off if you say 440, of course, at the checkout counter. And of course, Uber Eats, Weiss Liquors. You do the drinking, they do the driving. It'll be a great weekend for everybody.
Oh my gosh, breaking news.
More news.
Harold Landry just tore his ACL.
Are you kidding me?
Not kidding. Adam Schefter. A loss before the season even begins. Titans pass rusher Harold Landry tore his ACL during practice on Wednesday, which was supposed to be just a condition. Oh, yes, yesterday. So this happened yesterday.
Well, practice on Thursday was canceled. We got an email saying no media availability, no locker room, no nothing.
My gosh, I can't believe that. This is a major blow.
Okay, well, there's your money that they need to go sign somebody, right?
Yeah, but who do you sign?
I don't know. I mean, I think here's the one thing. I do think Ola and Rashad Weaver are okay. Like that, as far as the backups go, we like those 2 backups. They can do it in sort of piecemeal. But I think you need to go get another piece because I don't think, they got David and Nini on the practice squad. I don't think that's the answer. So maybe there's a veteran move here coming. And now you've got your starting 2 outside linebackers have had torn ACLs in the last year. If you're a
Look at this. Made that graphic on the fly.
How fast did you do that? That's incredible. Man, I don't even know what to say. Like this.
That changes a lot for this defense just because you got to remember Harold Landry does stuff in college. He allows them to do different things. Yes, Danico Autry is also an outside linebacker. Yes, DeMarcus Walker's also can be an outside linebacker. But now it's next men up and it's Rashad Weaver. I don't know where you go to find help for this. I mean, obviously you could bring up David Anini, who showed some flashes, but that is asking for a lot from 3 guys, Oladini, Rashad Weaver, and David Anini to do something to make up for this loss. I'm very concerned about what this says about this team.
So I would be very concerned as well, certainly with the strength of the team being the defensive line and their ability to pressure the quarterback without having to blitz at all. This is a huge loss for the entire season. It is a huge blow to a team that has largely been healthy most of camp. And frankly, the reason Harold Landry got paid is because he was available all the time.
That is some old school Titans bad luck right there. I mean, you could not.
After 3 preseason games.
It's sad. It's crazy. I hate it because obviously they're going to have to put him on IR. This team, after struggling all year, 91 players last year, Racy McMath, Harold Landry already off to being injured, and Harold Landry, who has somehow been healthy for 4 seasons, tear his ACL after he gets paid. That's a body blow.
I went to like just double check and make sure it wasn't like a fake Shefty account, but no, it's the real one.
I get notifications for real Shefty, not fake Shefty.
So it's a real story, man. Tough news for the Titans.
Big loss for that defense. That changes this defense. That's a player that, yes, it takes other players around him for him to be successful, but you can always count on Harold Landry to do his job, set the edge, and all this stuff. And there you go. Now we know why Vrabel was in a bad mood yesterday. Not surprising.
Yep. Now here's the thing. They have some versatility with their defensive line, and as we just joked about, they have 7 of them. So if Weaver and Autry and Simmons can be more flexible, move around a little bit more, can they also in certain situations fill some of his roles with like Danico Autry on the outside? Or it's not just Ola Adeniyi starting every game and playing every snap and Rashad Weaver. The idea is going to be, can we be more flexible with some of the pieces that we've got? Does that mean T.R. Tart and Naquan Jones? You
have to find a guy that can play the snaps that he plays. Because he means so much. You're now splitting so many snaps between Rashad Weaver and Ola Adeniyi and whoever else. It's kind of like Racey McMath. Racey McMath was supposed to be the deep threat guy. Now you're taking some snaps, some assignments away from Treylon Burks. Now you're going to take Danico Autry away from what he's good at. You may Rashad Weaver cannot be a slot corner like Harold Landry can. He can't go into coverage and be that guy. Who is that guy for them now that he's out? It hampers a lot of the multiple looks that they can really give out. Now they're going to have to get even more creative, because I don't know of an edge rusher out there that's on the market that can do half of what he does.
All right, wait, let me ask you this then. Let's go hypothetically here. Obviously, Vrabel, bad mood. They've made some moves today subsequently to free up space, right? So is there a chance that there's a trade somewhere coming? Who is the disgruntled pass rusher that they could go get? Where would you trade pieces from? Where are you deep enough to trade pieces from? Like, you're not trading offensive linemen or receivers, or I don't know where. Like, are you going to move a corner for him? Like, I don't. Where do you move someone to get? And again, defense outside linebacker is one of the most expensive pieces on the team. Where can they go to even go get something like a replacement?
I mean, I don't know if he really replaces it. Jason Pierre-Paul's out there. D Ford is out there. Those are 2 guys that could probably come in and give you something. Maybe Mario Edwards, KJ Wright. I don't think that he's signed anywhere yet. Ryan Kerrigan is out there. I don't think he was claimed, and I don't think he was signed anywhere, but there was Kamoko Toure who got cut from, and I'm not sure if he's still out there.
He says draft picks, of course, are a possibility.
Jamie Collins. I mean, you look at this list, it's not a great list, but those are lists of people that I would at least say you put them with Ola Adeniyi and
you feel a little bit better?
I feel a little bit better, because I think Jason Pierre-Paul still has some stuff to go on. I think you could sign Kamiko Toure and get some stuff out of him. KJ Wright, I know he's 33, but maybe you can get some stuff out of him. If anybody can get stuff out of these players that may be old or on the thing,
man,
even if Kerrigan's retired, he can always come out of retirement. I don't know if he's officially retired while he was on a team. That's a little bit different.
I mean, Zach, I'm just sort of like, this is so weird to be like live while this is happening, but basically I watched every practice, and every practice it was totally spotless. It was totally clean. There were a couple of tweaks here, Autry maybe had the hand, and Burks missed a couple of this. So but it was basically a totally spotless practice for the entire camp. And then the very first practice basically that they have that is not technically a camp practice, like, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's Kevin's right on there, and that's where it's concerning for me, is because it's when he drops into coverage, but
especially around the goal line, where they use him a lot on the goal line as the threat to rush, and then they drop him, and it's
just, they're going to have to adapt, and Mike Vrabel will. They'll do next man up, but they have. In my mind, this couldn't have come at a worse time, because you're still struggling to figure out your wide receiver room.
Yeah, offensive line
and offensive line, and now you got this. This is not great. I just I hate it for him. I hate it for the team. That's wild. That's going to damage that capability to be a top 5 defense, in my opinion. You know, we were talking at the beginning of the season, top 5, top 3 defense. You may be lucky to be top 10, top 15.
Yeah, because like they kept. I mean, the only practice squad player isn't any that can even play that position. Like they don't even have anybody else on the practice squad that's even close. They've got Joe Jones and they've got Murch, but those guys don't do that stuff. No. So look, the culture is under fire already. Okay, the culture is now going to be tested even further. And if anybody can do it, we know Vrabel can do it. And look, next man up, right? Like you can't. Go drink a lot this weekend, Titans fans. Go drink a lot and watch some college football and forget all about it. And then let's see what moves they make, because I guarantee you there is something coming.
There'll be something this weekend with because they've sent everybody home for the long weekend, and I know they're going to be at practice on Monday for Labor Day. But today, long weekend begins. They're going to make some moves, do some workouts. Just keep your eyes for a bunch of the Twitter accounts that will tweet that out over the weekend.
And you free up $8 million in cap space with a couple of moves after the day after or the week of. It's pretty obvious they're doing something. So we'll see what happens. Here's the deal. We'll have a podcast for you guys on Monday to react to all of the college football that happened. And then we've got some big stuff planned for you guys next Thursday. So make sure you tune in. Don't let this dampen your weekend. Enjoy yourself. Watch some college football. Have a good time.
I didn't even get to this.
Oh, yeah.
I got to get to it.
All right. All right. Have some fun.
Let me do this. For those that listen to the podcast, we should maybe split this up podcast wise. Maybe you release one episode about our college football, one episode a little bit easier to consume. Titans and college football.
All right,
because this is an extra long show. But I want to play this clip where Teron Davenport, and this video is courtesy of Teron Davenport at @TDavenport_NFL on Twitter. Follow him if you don't, because you should be. If you're any kind of Titans or football fan, you should already be following Teron.
I agree.
He asked Jon Robinson a question about why he thinks the 2020 draft class was he words it a little bit better than I will, but why did it stink?
Christian Fulton was in that class. Murch was in that class. Murch has made our team a couple times, and then he ended back up on the practice squad this year. We've got some guys in that were undrafted that are on that class. I've spoke about the guys that aren't here anymore. I'm not going to talk about those guys again. But I think that whole period of time was kind of weird for all of us, right? Because we were in this pandemic, we were locked in our houses, and we couldn't do anything. And it certainly, I mean, we tried to go through our process, TD, but it was just different, and it wasn't. I personally was not able to do what I normally do as I prep for the draft.
Now, I did not go through every team's 2020 draft class, but I went through 8 teams: the Bills, the Ravens, the 49ers, the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Colts, and the Rams. Okay. I feel like all those people,
pretty good ones,
pretty good teams to compare yourself to, especially because one of them's in your, everybody wants to say Jon Robinson is better than Chris Ballard, and I do agree to that. But my issue with all this is using COVID as an excuse instead of taking accountability and saying, I didn't adapt. I fucked up and did not adapt to the environment going on, because you're technically not locked into nobody was locked into their house, and you couldn't go do things. And there's no way that you couldn't do Zoom calls. You couldn't do other stuff. It was obvious after the Isaiah Wilson fiasco, they really dropped the ball on their investigatory process and the way they scouted this draft class. And they let COVID hinder them and handcuff them, while these teams did not. The Bills still have 6 of 7 players that they drafted on their active roster, 3 starters. Baltimore has 9 of 10, 5 starters out of that 9. San Francisco has all 5 from their draft class, and 3 of them are starters. The Steelers have 3 of 6, 3 are starters. Chiefs are 5 of 6, 4 are starters. Bengals are 7 of 7, 3 are starters. Colts are 6 of 9, 4 starters. Rams are 6 of 9, 3 starters.
Okay.
Teams weren't affected by it, and some of these teams were in fucking California that had worse laws than Tennessee did. So more stringent laws, not worse laws, but more stringent, restrictive laws than Tennessee did.
Yep.
Everybody, no, that is not an excuse. That's not a valid excuse. This goes back to a thing that I've said about Jon Robinson for a little bit now. and we see it. He's put himself in a box that he cannot move past if there is an obstacle in his way. For whatever reason, it's why he's got to keep signing Cody Hollister and Mason Kinsey and these losers. He has to have hard workers. You know who needs to be hard workers are the guys that are the scouts in his thing. And I think that this class, only having one player left from that class, and that one player is a starter, out of the many people that have left and gone, because he says, well, I'm not going to talk about the players that aren't here anymore. Well, that's the problem. They're not here anymore.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I heard Audible talking about this, like with Amon-Ra St. Brown drafted right after Des Fitzpatrick, who, again, and I agree with Graver on this. I have been an Amon-Ra St. Brown super fan since he was a recruit coming out of high school. Like, that's a guy that you could just it was obvious to everyone he was great, and they traded up to draft Des Fitzpatrick instead. Now, here's what I'll say. I agree with you that COVID shouldn't be an excuse. I agree with you that he didn't say it correctly in that clip. I think he should say something like, look, I need more face-to-face contact to do my job as best I can, and I screwed up by not doing that. Like, I want more accountability. I will say that we know the Titans have a little bit more old school vibes, a little bit more face-to-face scouting. They're not as deep into the analytics. And again, we can argue if that's right or wrong. But Jon Robinson has a lot of W's on his draft resume. He just needs to take the L on this one and just be like, look, I didn't go out and talk to as many people as I should have, but I normally need to talk to people. So I didn't figure out a way to adapt to that. That's my fault. I got to take the loss on that draft class. So, like, there's reasons why it could have been more difficult for him, and COVID could be the reason, and I'm fine with that. It was more difficult for everybody. But to say that I see the point that he's making. Like, hey, I want to be face-to-face with people before I truly evaluate. Again, they brought in Burks the second time because they didn't like their first face-to-face meeting with him. They bring him in a second time, and they like him. So I think that there's some element of truth to what he's saying, but you can't say it that way. You just got to say, look, I wasn't able to adapt. My skill set didn't work in that situation. That was my fault. I should have done better. Take the loss and move on. So
the 2020 draft class did not work out because I failed to adapt to the environment that was before me. I would have and first off, this is not a fire Jon Robinson rant or anything, or that I hate Jon Robinson anymore. I was just sorely disappointed in the answer, and I thought it was a really bad answer. And people say that I tend to paint everything in a positive light for this team. Well, here you go. I think this was a negative thing for sure. And I think that he did himself and the fans a real disservice by not taking accountability.
If you are going to do pass-fail, win-loss on Jon Robinson's 7 draft classes, right? I just did the whole finger counting thing. I think he's 6-1. If you're going to count this year as a win because they haven't played a game yet, but like they look like really good players so far, or take this one out of it or whatever. I think it's the only class where you go, that's just a big L, dude. You got to take the L.
It's a massive L, massive blemish, and that and moving up and trading up for Des Fitzpatrick or that whole class and that, just awful.
All right, I got to go get my kindergartner. Can I go get my kindergartner?
Yes.
All right, what a show. Just awful news, tough news there. For Harold Landry, of course. There'll be some more news. We got a pod coming for you on Monday, recapping all the football from the weekend and probably another move from the Titans. So we'll do that for you. No live show, but we'll have a podcast for you. So check out the feed. Go to Kingston Group. Go to Weiss Liquors, of course. Check out Broadway Sports Media. Go get yourself a subscription, an insider subscription. Use that insider code. Follow you, Zach, on the Twitters there at FWordsPod. There you go. You can get to me as well at Braden Gall. Everybody have a great and wonderful and spectacular Labor Day weekend, or at least try to. Kick your heels up, have a cocktail, watch some ball. That's how we do it. For Zach, I'm Braden. Thanks for hanging out with us. Mercifully, this show is over. This has been a football show.